Pseudoregalia is a platformer where you play as a pantsless goat gal named Sybil as you navigate a mysterious castle and the surrounding areas. Now, a lot of people these days hear the phrase pantsless goat gal and would be immediately sold on the game. But I, as a paragon of virtue, chastity, and not being a furry, am able to resist Sybil's feminine wiles and be able to judge this game fairly. After beating it, I've come to the conclusion that Pseudoregalia is a fantastic project that demonstrates a clear understanding of what makes platformers fun, and, more importantly, how to make a compelling experience around it. The amount of people who worked on this game can be counted on one hand, with just one guy doing the majority of the work. It's a game with a clear and concise vision, and I think it's seriously impressive even with the issues that it has. The first thing that you'll notice when the game dumps you into the world is that it looks like you've gone back in time to the era when mascot platformers were the hot thing on the block. It's kind of weird calling Sybil a mascot, maybe the mascot of Fur Affinity, but my point is that if you uploaded this game to an N64 cart and put it on a shelf at Blockbuster, it wouldn't feel out of place. Well, aside from having an average frame rate of above 20, since even laptops these days can render this level of visual fidelity like it's nothing. The game has a clear style that it's aiming for, and it achieves this impeccably. The minimalism in the level design, distinct art style direction, and melancholic music all evoke a dreamlike atmosphere. It doesn't just look like a dream though, it plays like one too. The game has just the right amount of momentum to feel good. The controls are tight and snappy, and allow you to execute some very precise maneuvers. Each upgrade feels meaningful because it vastly expands your options, many of which are hard to tell if they're intended or if they're a result of your own ingenuity. This pairs especially well with the level design. Each room presents a challenge to you, and it's up to you to figure out how to overcome it. There is always, of course, an intended solution, but you won't find invisible walls or other restrictions here. If you have the skill to completely bypass the intended path, the game just lets you. It's actually sobering just how few upgrades are truly necessary, even without abusing glitches. In fact, it's pretty nutty how high the skill ceiling is in this game. If you watch a speedrun, your jaw will drop at how far it pushes the movement. Pseudoregalia is a very cerebral game and places a high amount of trust in the player. It assumes that you have a high degree of spatial awareness and understanding. Hell, the initial release didn't even have a map, which was a really bold choice for reasons I'll get into later, trust me. But it's just really refreshing to play a platformer that actually rewards skill and getting good at the game. I can't gush about Pseudoregalia's core enough, but unfortunately, my issues with the game come from higher level things that are apparent only when the individual elements come together. First of all, the combat in this game is ass, plain and simple. Enemies are incredibly basic, and don't change no matter what area you're in. The control nuances that make platforming feel good can make a traditional hit the bad guy until he dies fight somewhat awkward. The core of the game is the platforming, and the combat feels like it's there only out of obligation. This normally would be okay. I mean, nobody plays Super Mario 64 for the Goomba stomping. However, a non-insignificant amount of the optional upgrades that you get for exploring and doing tricky platforming segments are combat-focused. This does take the wind out of your sails, especially since these upgrades don't even have any cool models to look at. They're all just generic balls of light. Key items do appear on Sybil's body, if you're using the default costume, that is. But it still just would have been nice to have some visual excitement when finding an upgrade where all it lets you do is kill a walking egg in 2 hits rather than 3. Fortunately, if you're exploring, upgrades come at a decent pace, so if one is a dud, then the next one will likely be something impactful. Though the pace of the upgrades obtained is good, the pace of game progression could use some improvement. The ultimate goal of the game is to collect 5 keys hidden around the world and unlock a big mysterious door. It's a solid premise, but you have to discover this, and for me, that took halfway through my playtime. For most of the start, you're wandering around aimlessly, just seeing what you can find and making mental notes of where you go back to once you've expanded your moveset. I feel like making Castle Sansa, one of the more maze-like areas of the game, the first real zone that you're in when you come out of the tutorial, was a mistake. It's a little disorienting, despite the central 4-way corridor helping a bit. And also, it can lead to other, more maze-like areas if the player gets unlucky with exploration. I feel the wiser decision should have been to have the player enter the game in the Empty Bailey, an open exterior area. There are several reasons why I feel this way. The township can be a good playground for testing out what you can do in a real context. You have a visual landmark in the form of the bell tower that you can use to orient yourself at all times. It has a movement upgrade that honestly should have been part of the base kit. And it exposes the player to the big creepy ruined tower in the distance that has that big mysterious door that I mentioned earlier, and forms the crux of the sense of progression throughout the game. In addition to having a bit of a bumpy start, I feel like the game ends before it even really begins. In the last hour, I finally felt like I had gained a solid grasp on the game, I had the full movement kit unlocked, and I could navigate things that were seemingly impossible before. The game demonstrates just how fun it can be with the time trials, which not only test your mechanical precision, but also your imagination. They're a blast and really show how far Pseudoregalia can push itself. In terms of actual progression, though, things move extremely quickly. You spend the majority of your playthrough getting one, maybe two of the major keys, and then it feels like in the last hour, you get the entire set, and the game ends. Maybe I just had a bizarre path through the game, but that still doesn't change the fact that the game ends right as you feel it's hitting its stride. Unfortunately, I don't really have a solution to this, other than make more game, which, for such a small dev team, can be a pretty tall ask. It's just one of those realities of true indie game dev that we just have to live with. Perhaps it could be mitigated if the game had some kind of summary screen at the very end with your time taken and percentage of items collected to give a little goal to improve on for future runs. Maybe even do what Metroid does and give a different end screen for fast completion or high item collection, or maybe even both. Then again, Samus rewarded players by taking off her clothes, which, while it would certainly be appreciated by most of the player base, is a little bit crass for the refined feeling that Pseudoregalia aims to present in Sybil. Fortunately, the time trials are replayable, and even give cool costumes for Sybil, but I feel this isn't really enough, especially since you have to physically go to them across the game world, which can make trying them again a little cumbersome. If you could perhaps unlock an option to just play them from the main menu, maybe, but then you lose a huge aspect of world navigation that makes the game so compelling. Despite these issues, Pseudoregalia is a wonderful, memorable experience. Its biggest crime is being so brief, but it gets a lot of slack for this for being less than the cost of lunch. When it ended, I didn't think, I'm glad it's over. I thought, I want more, which is the mark of a great video game in my eyes. Pseudoregalia is a magnificent foundation, and I would love to see a sequel where it is expanded and refined. Oh. Well, Pseudoregalia can still be appreciated as a standalone experience. It won't take you more than a few sessions to beat, but I liken it to a good meal at a fancy restaurant. You won't walk away stuffed, but it's just the right amount to leave you completely satisfied. Overall, I give it a B+, close to being a classic for the genre, but with a few rough edges that keep it just out of that category. I'd even go so far as to call it a work of art, because the more I think about it, the more I like it, and want to go back to it to experience it again with a more seasoned perspective. Maybe I'll look up some more advanced tech just to see how much I can crack the game open. In short, Pseudoregalia is the type of game that just feels good to play, with a phenomenal showing from its developers. It's everything that an indie game should strive to be, and more.